I've made improvements to my Sork, and pound for pound, I've improved her per rotational damage by about 10%. I invested about 900,000 gold to do this, and 720,000 of that gold was a level 10 damage gem. Almost all of the cost was getting another level 10 damage gem. I also made adjustments to her engravings and her overall item quality. I'm happy to report that I have 3 points of specialization off from the theoretical cap. That's how good her accessory qualities are now. She has 1,845 specialization. I'm running Keen Blunt Weapon 3 and Adrenaline 1 now. I replaced Cursed Doll 3 with Keen Blunt Weapon 3. In theory, over a prolonged fight period, this should result in a very minor damage increase, having switched to Keen Blunt Weapon, and how much adrenaline increases my damage by just wholly depends on learning a rotation to maintain it. But I've calculated my new crit chance, and if I can upkeep the adrenaline stacks, my crit chance on my own, without any synergy whatsoever, is 82%. Which is pretty sick. That does have a stipulation though, and that stipulation is, I think on average, I'll probably perform better with an Arcana, Deadeye Gunslinger, or Aeromancer in my party. The overall effectiveness of me playing with a Glavier or a War Dancer, which is typically the synergy that Sorceresses want to play with the most, has actually gone down quite a bit. Most Sorceresses wants to play with War Dancers and Glaviers. However, because mine is a fucking special snowflake and I play Hallucination set, I may find more effective usefulness with the other classes that I mentioned before, the constant crit damage synergies, or just taking damage synergies in lieu of crit chance. I have one set up for if I want to go crit heavy, and I have an extra setup if I need more leeway. I could switch it on the fly with no big change for the playstyle. So besides for the stats being updated and her just being a bit stronger pound for pound, the engravings have been updated. I've removed Cursed Doll and replaced it with Keen Blunt Weapon, and I've removed Ether Predator for Adrenaline because of the fickleness of a lot of the encounters that I do, being too short to take advantage of Ether Predator. Ether Predator is a fantastic engraving, but it kind of implies that you maintain the stacks between gates. Last but not least, I have changed my gem setup. I have dropped the cooldown gem for Punishing Strike and Explosion, and I have replaced them with a damage gem for Blaze, which does quite good damage, and a cooldown gem for Rhyme Arrow, which was previously only using a damage gem. Why are we dropping cooldown gem for Punishing Strike and Explosion? Well, the answer is pretty simple. No matter if you're using the cooldown gem or not on these skills, you're only going to get one cast of them inside Arcane Rupture regardless. So removing the cooldown gems from these skills adds about 5 seconds of cooldown to them, and we'll be able to cast our Rhyme Arrow much more frequently. In addition to that, I've replaced the Identity Gauge tripod on Rhyme Arrow with CDR, and together with the cooldown gem, that is bringing down the cooldown of this skill down to about 11 seconds, which is very short and allows me to cast it much more frequently. In my rune setup, I didn't really change a whole lot. I kept Purple Wealth on Rhyme Arrow and Esoteric Reaction, and I put Blue Wealth on Inferno, which is being cast much less frequently. However, because of the change with the damage gem, I didn't actually get to change this yet. I'm going to be moving some points over to here, like that. And what I do with this, I'm probably just going to keep this as is, or I will replace it with my counter skill. Because this skill, even at level 1, can still generate a good amount of Identity Gauge, or I can take Squall, either or. But yeah, moving those points over to Blaze, rather important for me, because I just put the damage gem on it, so we want to squeeze out the most amount of damage as possible. I run a very unique build of Sorceress, which is Hallucination Igniter. This is a build that I created, or that I pioneered. I've been using this build for a long time now. I've been using it in Hell mode, and I've been using in prog rating, including the week 1 Econ Clear, and I found it to be very effective. The gist of this build is I have traded damage ceiling or damage consistency. I've traded 17% of my damage ceiling to gain 28% consistency on my crit chance. I'm probably getting a lot of questions if you can use Keen Blunt Weapon. If you aren't using Hallucination set, I would not recommend it because at a lower crit chance, Keen Blunt Weapon can actually give you less damage than Curse Doll while also incurring that potential penalty of 20% reduced damage. So please do keep that in mind. The penalty on average is actually a 2% global loss in damage on average over a prolonged period of fight. And so if Keen Blunt Weapon is only giving me 20% additional damage in a perfect scenario where I always crit on all of my igniters, we can say that over the course of the fight, the penalty is going to reduce it by 2%. So we could say that in a perfect world, Keen Blunt Weapon is going to be giving me almost like 18% additional damage. So this is a very unique build, but like I said, it is a side grade to the Nightmare build. The Nightmare build still has a 17% higher ceiling than this build, and so people who want to do the absolute maximum amount of damage may still want to use Nightmare, especially if they're confident that they'll always be playing with crit synergies in their party. So overall, the actual damage increase that I'm seeing from my engravings is a small increase. It's a very, 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 very small increase over what I was using previously. A lot of my damage increase is now coming from the updated skill set and the additional damage gem. However, unfortunately, this does make the build extremely expensive because now we're using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage gems, which is one of the highest amounts among all the classes in the game, making this one of the most expensive builds in general to fully max out. Would you go Curse Doll 2 as a 6 engraving if you could handpick a 9/7? Yeah, I think I would actually. I think that wouldn't be a half bad idea if I had that option.